Looks like I got the stream started. Whoops. I was about to hop up, but hey everybody. Doing an impromptu live stream. My name is Chris. I'm the host of Comic Tropes, and every once in a while I like to do a live stream where I just I'll be doodling, but it's an opportunity to really just to connect with you, answer some questions, talk about stuff. So give me a moment. This is kind of impromptu. And hello to people that are already popping up. Hello to Ben, Sarah, Diego, Sope, Beowulf, Jimmy. Nice to see everybody. Give me a moment here. I just want to plug that I'm going live. So give me a sec and then I'll talk to you. I don't know how many of you are watching WandaVision. Not necessarily that I'm getting into any spoilers today. I just felt like drawing it because tonight is going to be... I say tonight. It's tonight at midnight Pacific time. Really tomorrow is going to be the season finale. It's been a pretty interesting show. It's definitely been something that's easy to speculate on. And I thought that we could just sort of like talk a little bit about what maybe we would have liked to have seen in the show. But we'll also just talk about all sorts of like, nerdy stuff. There's been some great comics that came out this week that I definitely want to chat about since we're doing a live chat. So there's a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about. Let's see real quick. My videos. Oh, and they've got the wrong thumbnail up. Oh well. Nice to see everybody. Look at how many people are already here. That's lovely. I really appreciate it. That's awesome. Copying my link, going to various social sites, and going nuts. Yeah, I'd be curious to see, just real quick, how many people out there have been watching WandaVision, first of all. I'd love to get a sense of how many of you are actually watching it versus like, nah. Let's see. Unusually Odd Academy says, you actually a lot better at art than I thought. Way better than my art, I'll tell you that much. Well, that's kind of you, I think. Draws Japanese Spider-Man giving them a little smooch. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I will. So, what else? Yeah, we're about to get like a lot of consistent Marvel stuff at this point. After really, of course, taking last year off. But you know what? A break can honestly be a good thing sometimes. But right now we're going to get the WandaVision finale tonight. We get 1 week off. Then they come right back with Falcon and Winter Soldier. As soon as that ends, we get the Black Widow movie. Then I believe the Loki show starts up. After Loki, what's that next thing they're doing? I think it's Shang-Chi. And then by the end of the year, we're getting Eternals and Spider-Man. So we're getting a lot of Marvel stuff coming up. So that's kind of interesting. It was interesting to go a year without any new Marvel stuff after over 10 years of at least 2 movies a year. It was a lot. But you know what? I think a break was good. And, yeah, let's see. I started watching, but I'm waiting for the series to end. Oh, okay, somebody wants to just sort of binge it. I get that. Haven't seen it, but good luck to it. Somebody from Argentina's there. That's cool. Is the future of comics in Kickstarter? Kiro, thanks for asking that, because I wanted to talk about that a little. I don't think it's necessarily the full future. I think it's become a viable way to initiate a series, to launch a series, and to get known. It's definitely a lower barrier to entry to get your comic out into the world through crowdfunding, and then potentially continue that series and expand the audience through a traditional publisher. So just this past week, I went to the comic book store to get some new comics, and I picked up 3 new comics One of them was X-Men Demon Days by Peach Momoko. That's sort of its own thing. I may talk about her at some point in the future. I think she is an interesting artist, and there's some stuff I'd like to say. The other two comics I got were Berserker through Boom Studios and Nocterra through Image Comics. However, both Berserker and Nocterra got their start as a Kickstarter project, just to sort of get out into the world. And I definitely find that fascinating that, Berserker, for instance, has Keanu Reeves as a co-writer. That should be enough to certainly get any publisher interested enough to give that a shot. And yet they decided to go the Kickstarter route. Nocterra is got some huge creators behind it. Scott Snyder, Tony Daniel, pretty big names. They definitely could get picked up anywhere without too much trouble. And yet they also decided to start things with Kickstarter. Fascinating. My take on things there is that it's a good way to build up a very loyal fan base and to create some buzz. Can you sort of make a living off of just kickstarting comics? I mean, one or two people can. I don't think that the average person could make a consistent living that way. But it is a good way to get exclusives out and to sort of build up your audience and some buzz. Really generate your own audience that will become promoters when you then publish it through a publisher. So I found that fascinating that such big name creators are going that route now. By the way, I definitely recommend those three comics that I just commented on that I picked up this week. I thought Demon Days was a really fun, unique take on both a mix of some X-Men stuff and some traditional Japanese folklore, especially yokai, which is just sort of the catch-all for spirits. So that was a fun take. Berserker hooked me by the very end. At first I was going well, this looks pretty good. Ron Garney's always been a good artist, but it was just over the top violence, and I wasn't quite sure where it was going. And then by the very end, they sort of hook you with a couple little twists and a couple hints at where it could go. And I was like, all right, you know what? I think I'm in. But my favorite of the three was definitely Nocterra. That premise is that the world is all of a sudden covered in darkness, and we skip forward several years. And if you're in the darkness for 10 hours, you mutate and turn into a monster permanently. The only way to keep the monsters away is just to cover yourself with lights. So there's certain little towns that are just always lit up. And the story follows this main girl who is a trucker that transports people between locations or potentially things. And, she's got this rig that's just all decked out in light. And at first you're okay, well, that's an interesting world and an interesting premise, but where do you go from there? And then you find out that her brother is done something and he started to get infected, and she has to take this job that she would normally not trust at all with some weirdos that want to go to a supposed safe haven of a huge city with artificial light and everything. Normally she wouldn't, but she's going to have to if she wants any hope of saving her brother, because all her backup plans fell through. So cool. Now we've got an interesting premise and sort of a character beat that we can get behind. Oh, okay, it's about family. All right, cool. That's grounded. I can latch onto that in this sort of weird sci-fi world. So Nocterra gets a huge recommend from me. I was really, really impressed with that. I love when you read a comic and you sort of can sort of see it as a movie, and I don't mean that as in, what a cool adaptation this would be. What I mean is you can hear the characters and you can see them moving and stuff. When you're reading it, it really gets into your mind and becomes cinematic and interesting. So I found that very, very interesting. I think that's pretty cool. I'm about ready to get started here. I've mentioned this to this live stream to a few of my social channels, and And yeah, let's get started. I've got some just inking pens and pencils and stuff. I'm going to actually flip this up. Sorry if I've got a little bit of glow on my face from doing that, but I've sort of just put a piece of paper here to block the light that I use here. What did I think of Future State? You know what? I didn't read it. I'll be honest. That's an interesting question, Grug. I don't generally follow too much in terms of just following a title or following a publisher. I really follow creators, and I have for a while. So, yeah, I'll look for something that's well reviewed. It doesn't mean that, if Future State had a book that was either completely beloved by critics or completely trashed, well, I'm going to pick that up and look at it. But in general, events and stuff, I don't really start reading. Is drawing humans or animals more difficult for you? Oh, definitely animals. Definitely animals. However, you do have, I think, a little flexibility between those two in that, even if you're not an artist and you see something that doesn't look quite right on a person, it just stands out. It's that sort of uncanny valley effect. You just know. You're like, that doesn't quite look right to me. I don't know why, but it doesn't look right. An animal, well, at least a lot of them, we don't see as often, so sometimes you could do a little bit bad on the musculature of a horse or something, and it doesn't stand out and read as bad. So you've got sometimes a little bit of wiggle room when you draw certain animals. But drawing people, well, we see each other all the time, and we know if something is just off, Do I like Warhammer 40K? You know what? I've never played it. I've never played Warhammer. I do have some friends that have played it and like it quite a bit. But as for me, no. Do you play it, Jokeru, Jim? Let's see. I don't see the appeal of Momoko's art. I don't understand her popularity right now. It's definitely something I was curious about too, because she seems, well, she's very, very popular. There's no question about that. And I'm kind of curious. I wouldn't call myself the biggest fan. I think I liked X-Men Demon Days more for her unique story. But it's good art, and I'm trying to understand why it's become so popular. I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit, because sometimes something is okay, not necessarily for me. Doesn't mean I hate it, just maybe not for me. But why is it so popular? I think that's an interesting question to ask, and one I want to get an answer to. I'm just going to try to figure something out here with pencil before I go into ink. Bear with me. Hello, Amar. Umberto Ramos. Yeah, I could potentially cover him someday. It's hard to say when. There's a lot of ideas that I have right now. What do you think Hickman has planned long-term for the mutants? I think that there's something being hidden about the creation of Krakoa and the mutant nation. The fact that Professor X is always wearing that helmet and we don't really see his face, I think that that's a very intentional idea that something is being hidden. Kitty Pryde can't access certain parts of the island. What's happening with Moira. There's definitely some interesting things in the background. I think that there's something potentially insidious about all of that. But I don't know what, and I kind of like that I don't know what. The one thing I will say is I'm patient with Hickman, because he's proven to me that if you are patient with his work, it can pay off in big ways and have more meaning later down the road. So I'm being patient with it. Some issues have been good. Some issues have just been sort of, I'll call them table setting episodes. They haven't been the most exciting. But I'm curious. I'm curious to see where it goes. It's good to see someone drawing on paper. Yeah, Chrissy got me an amazing gift for Christmas. She got me a digital tablet where you can actually see what you're drawing. So I do need to use that at some point for a future live stream. I would really, really like to. But not tonight. So, I'm drawing obviously like sort of a Wanda and Vision, and I'm curious, what do people think is going to happen in the final episode here? I'll tell you some things that won't happen, but that I would have liked to see happen, because I just don't think that they'll happen. I would love it if director Hayward of Sword ended up being a Skrull. I think it just would make sense for during the blip when half of life was exterminated for maybe the Skrulls to potentially blame humanity, and it would also be very easy in the confusion to take over positions of authority in government. So I think that would be cool if he was revealed to be that. I think when the rebooted Vision, like we've seen in West Coast Avengers back in '89, I think that like it would be cool if he spoke with James Spader's voice, if he sounded like Ultron. Again, I don't expect that to happen at all. I just think it would be cool. Vision was supposedly made to be Ultron. It's a Huon. Just answering a question about my tablet. I think it would be cool if behind Agatha it was like a traditional enemy of the supernatural, like, Nightmare or something. I don't think that they're going to pull off any of these big twists with just one episode left. That's why I'm throwing all this stuff out there. I just think it would be cool, but I don't expect any of that to happen. I've reinvigorated Rad Graphics' love for comics. Well, wonderful! Greetings from a small town in Argentina. Well, thank you so much. Argentina's definitely produced a lot of amazing comic book creators. Outsized amount, considering, its overall size and everything. So, yeah, Argentina has some very deep and interesting history with comic books. But I'm looking forward to seeing the finale tonight, seeing where that goes, and then getting up bright and early to go straight to work. Monica Rambeau will have full photon powers. Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. Here, I've watched the show Community, Rithvik. I'm a huge fan of Dan Harmon, have been since he was co-writing Scud, the Disposable Assassin, back in the early 90s. He got his start co-writing his friend Rob Schraub's comic book, and then they went to Hollywood, obviously, and created stuff like Heat Vision and Jack and Channel 101. I've been a fan of Dan Harmon for a long time, so I was definitely going to watch Community, but it also co-starred my friend Ken. I'm good friends with Ken Jeong, and he was one of the actors on the show, and of course I'm going to watch a show that one of my friends is on, and I loved it. Well, maybe not all of it. There were a couple there was one season that I didn't love. Community fans will understand. How would I retire Frank Castle? Do you mean like in a story or something? Because he's actually been killed off before, and he just keeps coming back. Beats me. What if WandaVision introduced the X-Men? Well, in a way, Ben, they sort of have hinted that, like, Wanda, it's a retcon, but the show has hinted that Wanda had her powers before she was exposed to the Mind Stone, and that just amplified them, which basically means, yeah, mutants. So, what time is it where you are? Oh, I'm on the Pacific coast of America, so it is 8, I believe. Let's double check there. 8:10. Rewatched the Scud Comic Tropes episode today. After that, watched a Scud Sega Saturn video gameplay. Looks good. Scud was great, man. Scud was just pure creativity. It was wonderful. Big fan. I'm so glad that I discovered Scud when I did, and that's why I always recommend to people to just try indie comics, because you never know when those creators will like go on somewhere else. Like you'll find something in the world of indie comics that you like. My favorite thing of going to comic conventions is going to Artist Alley, because you'll always find passion there. Sometimes it's raw and sort of like rough, but you'll definitely find passion in Artist Alley with comics, not necessarily like prints and stuff. Some people just go there to sell stuff, and that's fine. You know, do whatever. But I think that I love the passion on display there. Somebody has an idea, and they've put a lot of work to. It's not easy to print or self-publish a comic. It's not easy at all. So I've got a lot of respect when somebody goes to the trouble of getting that done. You'll find some really funny stuff. You'll find some really personal stuff. And you never know if they're going to be the stars of tomorrow. And that's what I found with things like The Tick or Scud, things along those lines. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of looking into who might be the next sort of interesting creator to follow. Some of my favorite conventions are the small press conventions. You miss my vids? I mean, I put them out pretty regularly. I put one out just a couple days ago. Yeah, I've read Grendel. Grendel's very interesting. Grendel, Matt Wagner. I would love to talk about him sometime. I would love to. What would be the worst mistake the season finale could make? Oh, interesting. What's the worst mistake the WandaVision season finale could make? I would say... Well, let's see. What is it doing well? We're all invested in Wanda. We're invested in the mystery. If it, like, somehow completely lost focus of Wanda's pain and grief and just became like a fight between a bunch of other characters and Wanda wasn't the focus at the center, that would be a mistake. Yeah, if it ended up like that, the final episode just did stuff to set up other Marvel stuff, that would be a mistake, because not everybody has Disney Plus. They all go to the movies, but not everybody has Disney Plus. So, you know, you can develop the characters, but you can't really like add to the mythology in some sort of way that like you have to know about that before you see a movie. You can't do that. So, you know, you have to just focus on character in a TV show. Will I do a video on Scott Pilgrim? I think I'd love to. I'd love to do Scott Pilgrim. Sorry I'm not catching everybody's questions. I hope you understand that like it's never a personal thing. It's just that lots of stuff is flying by. I'm also sort of drawing. I'm giving my own thoughts. Just letting you know, you can definitely ask something, you know, a second time if I missed it and you really want an answer, and I'll do my best to answer whatever I see. But, you know, obviously I'm not going to catch everything. Ryan Stegman or Ryan Oddly? Oh, I'm a little biased. You know, I know Ryan. I you know, proofread Invincible for its whole run, and I've hung out with Ryan in person and stuff. So I think Ryan's supremely talented. He's Ryan Stegman's definitely an interesting artist. Definitely super interesting. But if you ask me between them, well, I'm going to go with my personal bias and go with Ryan. I also am really impressed. Like Ryan, like who else in comics consistently did a monthly for as long as Ryan was on Invincible? Not many people. There's not many that consistently stayed on one title and kept it monthly for that long. That was really impressive. That was really, really impressive. Hey, it's EJ Sue. Supremely talented artist. We were just talking about like Ryan. Like EJ is another person that I originally met online. Oh man, going back something like 20 years. That's so long. EJ, you may have seen his artwork recently on the cover of Marvel's Ultraman. It's beautiful, and he's done other comics too, like Tech Jacket and stuff. He's great. Let's see. What do I think of the character John Constantine? Constantine's fascinating. Constantine is definitely got all sorts of hidden depth to explore. Way more, way deeper than like your average character in a superhero comic. Yeah, I like Constantine quite a bit. He's also had a lot of great writers on Hellblazer over the years. Yeah, Invincible Amazon series later this month. That should be cool. When I asked how you would retire Frank, I meant as phasing him out given recent controversy. Oh, like for like Marvel? I don't know that you necessarily have to retire the Punisher. What I was saying whenever there was like controversy was more just that I was arguing Marvel isn't doing a good job enforcing its copyright, and you may as well retire the character if you're not going to enforce that copyright. That said, not necessarily my favorite character anymore. Definitely loved him in the 80s. I have to admit, I was a teenager. I thought that Punisher was badass and stuff. But it's kind of become repetitive, minus a few good runs. Garth Ennis found a way to sort of make him funny, and then did some interesting stuff with Max, Marvel Max line. I also think I love Rick Remender's run with Tony Moore and some other great artists. Frankencastle, that was a different take on the Punisher, getting to the core of who he is, but putting him in a radically different environment. I loved it. Yeah, I do streams occasionally, Freelance Spy. I like to just use this opportunity to connect with viewers. It means a lot to me that y'all watch my show, and it's always interesting to get a sense of what's important to other people in the world of comics these days. Is anybody else looking forward to the Zack Snyder Justice League cut? That, I think, also comes out this month. I would not say that I'm excited about it, if I'm being honest, but I do plan on giving it a watch, and I will do either a review or a commentary track on my Patreon about it, because so many people there were curious about my thoughts and stuff, and we'll see. Can't say I'm like excited about it, but I'm curious. I did not hear that Terminator is getting an anime. Is that true? Terminator, what a great premise. But honestly, if we're being real, I think only the first two movies are any good. And I did like the live-action TV show a lot. I legit am a stand for that. Like, the Sarah Connor Chronicles was a great show. I'm just putting it out there. That's my opinion. It's a great show. None of the Terminator sequels really did much for me. I won't watch it. I mostly just want to see Red Letter Media rip on it. Man, I love those Red Letter Media guys. If you ask me, like, could I, Chris, you're allowed to collaborate with any YouTuber out there. I have to say, Red Letter Media would be at the top of my list. I would just adore the chance to talk about a movie with those guys. That'll never happen. But that's okay. I love their channel. I really do. Not to be controversial or anything, but what do you think about Zack Snyder as a director? I think that Zack Snyder definitely has a visual style that can look good for certain things. His visuals do not annoy me. I think that they can often look really, really cool. I think he actually can draw good performances out of his actors as well. I sincerely believe that. I think where Zack Snyder's stuff falls apart for me is when he has too much of a say in the script. I just don't think I quite agree with, like his things like, what was the one with, like, the 5 girls all in, like, gothic Lolita outfits? I can't even remember. Something with, like, an S, like Sugarland Express, I don't know, or Fantasy World, I don't know. That, and, like, his DC stuff where he's had a hand in writing it, leaves me pretty cold. But if you look at some of his earlier work where, like, other people were writing it, like, honestly, 300 and the Dawn of the Dead remake, I think he put out some pretty good movies. So I definitely think he's capable of delivering an interesting movie. I think Watchmen, for instance, like, parts of it are very interesting, and it's slavishly loyal in some parts, and then in other parts it completely misses the point of Watchmen because it makes their fighting so epic and cool, and that just takes away from, like, the fact that they're supposed to be real people. It really takes away from it. Anyway, Sucker Punch. Thanks, Darth Debaucherous. Appreciate that. So everybody told me. Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch is not good. He works best when he just adapts comics. See, yes, for 300, that was a good adaptation. On Watchmen, interesting results. His DC stuff all leaves me cold. It all leaves me cold. It does not work for me. Just watched your interview with Todd McFarlane. What a great interview. Keep up the great work. Your videos are great. Oh, that's very kind of you, Thrilla. I definitely would love to do more interviews. I would definitely love that. So that's something I've got in, like, the back of my mind. Like, hey, Chris, reach out to more creators. I find that very interesting and rewarding to talk about them, like, on a level like that. So we'll see. Maybe I can get some more in the near future. Why was the Sucker Punch movie bad? I think it was bad because it was just a total downer, and it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of logical sense. It's the kind of thing that you have to think through pretty carefully for it to make sense, but it doesn't warrant that, like, it doesn't reward you for paying attention and figuring it all out. Yeah, I understand what you're talking about, JoJo, about the Watchmen movie, but that's sort of what I'm talking about, like how he did draw interesting performances out of his actors, like Billy Crudup was a very good Dr. Manhattan. Uh-oh, I got the thing. Now it's just dusty. And then, yeah, I mean, Jackie Earle Haley was great as Rorschach. That made the movie. So yeah, I think Daniel Snyder is Daniel Snyder? I don't know who Daniel Snyder is. Zack Snyder is capable of good things. That cough, like, just gave me a chest pain. Give me a sec here. I don't have any water, but... Oh, cool, a super chat. I'll always prioritize these. What's your opinion on Milestone relaunch? I think it's a good idea. Give me a sec. I'm coughing. I've got wine. I've got Layer Cakes Cabernet Sauvignon, California 2018. It's good. Milestone deserves attention. Some of those characters are legit great. Static is great. Hardware is interesting. Icon is very interesting. So yeah, like I haven't read any of the relaunch stuff. I don't know who's on the titles. I know that, like, Carrie Randolph is doing the covers, at least, I think, for Static. Thank you, Rosebad. I always appreciate a compliment. Thank you so much. A little hair of the dog. No, I haven't actually had anything to drink in a while. I just it's what I've got here, and I needed something to clear out my throat. As to, like, exactly what I'm drawing here, I guess I'm drawing the MCU vision for the most part, but Wanda, obviously doesn't really have that interesting a costume in the MCU. I'm going to draw her in just her sort of traditional outfit. I don't think I've talked about this on the live stream before. I have an old car that I work on, a 1957 Thunderbird to be specific, and it's a fun car, man. It looks gorgeous. It needs some work mechanically, but it definitely runs just fine. I'm just saying to get it in pristine shape. And today I decided to take it out for a drive. You literally have to drive it every once in a while to keep it running. It's just good for it. And it stalled out on me while I was on the street, and I had to put it in neutral and push it. And the adrenaline, like, was there because I felt like, I've got 2 lanes of traffic on both sides. I happen to be in a middle lane, so there wasn't really anyone behind me, but I had to, push it across 2 lanes of traffic to get it into, fortunately, a gas station. And slightly uphill, it didn't take that long, but I had to use a lot of muscle behind it, and my legs are like shaking because I really had to push with my legs. Oh my god, I feel like I ran a small marathon today. My legs just feel blown out from pushing that car today. Yeah, heavy beast. Favorite comic period art-wise? Mine is classic X-Men. The colors are so vibrant. Sure, I understand that, Bluesy. Yeah, I think I'm of the opinion that comic book fans always sort of become a fan of wherever they started. Like, that to them will always be the best period, So for me, that means early through mid-'80s. That's like my jam. Those are the comics that I love the most, is anything that came out in that period. There's so much stuff, especially Marvel, I have to admit, and some indie stuff, because I was discovering stuff like Ninja Turtles and, I don't know, all sorts of cool stuff. So that's my favorite period overall, and it's mostly for nostalgia. Greetings from Mexico. Well, thank you, Ian Chernobyl. Did you hear the cartoonist kayfabe guys are working with Liefeld on a comic? I did. I've been reading that comic, first of all, because I love G.I. Joe, and I'm fascinated by Liefeld. And he's doing, for the record, a, what's it called? Snake Eyes comic. I gotta be honest, I don't love it. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. Why is Snake Eyes fighting Thor? I don't know. I couldn't really tell you. It's weird. And then, there was news today that, all the kayfabe guys, Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor and Tom Scioli are all going to be working on the final chapter of that book. Glad I've been reading it, because now I actually have a reason to be invested in the finale. I love the kayfabe boys. They're great. They're all great. So yeah, that was not something I was expecting at all, but I'm interested. What was that? I don't even know what I just sang. I'm looking for a good Wolverine comic run. Any recommendations? My favorite is the era of Larry Hama and Mark Silvestri. That was 90s. I think their run was dope. I think it was great. I also think that miniseries, the 4 issues by Chris Claremont and Frank Miller, is pretty great. As far as modern runs, I'm just not as knowledgeable. I will also say that one that can get overlooked is the Marvel Comics Presents Weapon X storyline by Barry Windsor Smith. Pretty fantastic. Definitely top tier Wolverine. Something I should do an episode on. I love that. I love that. Did you read the short series of The Boys Dear Becky? I did not. Sorry, I didn't read it. What is your favorite Hulk that has appeared on TV shows or movies? Ah, interesting. Interesting. My favorite Hulk, you said. I would say that, like, the current MCU version. The way he looked in, Avengers Age of Ultron and Thor Ragnarok, I liked that version of the Hulk a lot. That was really interesting and cool. As far as who plays the best Bruce Banner, I think you got to go back to the original TV show and give it to Bill Bixby. I think he played a really charming, interesting Bruce Banner. I think he was the best. Do you think Star Wars can be saved if they do a crossover with Aliens or Predator? I don't think that would work. I don't think that would work. They're just too different in terms of tone. Maybe as a one-off, just for fun as a comic. Yeah, you could get away with it as an interesting comic. I don't think Star Wars needs saving, though. Star Wars, especially like the comics right now, are as popular as ever. People love them. Yeah, super, super popular. So, what else is getting asked? I was rewatching your Dwayne McDuffie video, clicked of, and saw you were streaming. Oh, well, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Thank you. If I haven't, read your question, again, not ignoring anybody, just sort of doing my own thing, and there's a lot, so... obviously, you can always, I'm not telling you have to, but you can always do a super chat, and I'll always prioritize those. I'll answer those. But you definitely do not have to do that. Let's see, what else can we talk about? So much of my life this year has just been work, so sometimes it's hard, to think of just a story to tell. I don't know about you guys. Claremont is probably my favorite writer. Claremont has done a lot of great stuff. Were you into New Mutants at all? Yeah, I loved the New Mutants. Oh my god, that was totally one of the books I loved. I did not care for the movie. Just as I'm pretty sure I did a Patreon exclusive video about it. It was not good. Do I have comics based in manga like X-Men manga? I mean, I have the new Demon Days by Peach Momoko, if that's what you're asking. What do I think of Alan Moore's 1963 series? Oh, man, 1963, right, the stuff he did at Image. Trying to remember it. I remember finding some of it funny. I don't really remember it that well anymore, to be honest. I'll have to give that a reread. This stance mirrors the Crisis Superman cover. Yeah, I was definitely thinking of something along those lines. Obviously, it's not the same pose, but that was definitely some of the idea I had here. And this is not a prediction of something I expect to happen in the season finale of WandaVision or anything. I just thought it would be interesting to show Vision holding Scarlet Witch like this, and just sort of going with that. As a lifelong comic fan, from spandex and bright colors to dark and gritty, which would you prefer? At this point, for superheroes, I prefer brighter colors to dark and gritty. I've had my fill of dark and gritty, I suppose. Yeah. Ready for something a little different. What do you think your next comic tropes video will be about? Well, I know what it'll be about, but should I say? Yeah, why not? My next one's going to be about comics about making comics. I'll just leave it at that, but there's a bunch. I did read AV versus X. I thought that the premise was pretty strong, maybe fizzled out a little for me towards the end. Do I like Steve Bissette or his indie comic tyrant? Very, very much. Definitely. Yeah, Steve Bissette's amazing. Yeah. Are you planning on any videos with Godzilla Mendoza? No, not planning any right now, but I realized recently that it had been a while since I'd done anything with him. Definitely love him and would love to do something together. Not sure what would be the right project, but maybe like when the new Godzilla movie comes out, we could do something. I don't know. I don't know. What is the shirt that I'm wearing? Oh, my friend Gustavo gave me this for Christmas. It says, the periodic table of horror movies. And so it's just got like, fake symbols for all sorts of movies, like Saw and American Psycho and Pumpkinhead and stuff. So it's got like categories like supernatural, vampires, psychopaths, aliens, disease, stuff like that. I love horror movies. He knows me. Will you touch on the new Rorschach title in that new video? No, I wasn't planning on it. Would I cover Xenozoic on the channel? I'd love to cover everything, so it's all up for grabs. Absolutely. Danger Dangerously asks if I think that the X-Men will make any cameos in Falcon and Winter Soldier, since some of it takes place in Madripoor. No, I wouldn't expect that. I think that that would be too big a thing to introduce on TV before it's been in a movie. They're going to save any X-Men stuff for the movies. Yeah. That's just the way it is. Interesting idea. I could see how it could make sense. I just sometimes, just the logical part of my brain kicks in, and I'm like, they're not going to do certain things on TV. They're just not. Especially not TV that not everybody has. But can you imagine if WandaVision tonight does Wanda, you've created the multiverse. I don't know. I mean, maybe they could hint at it, but they're not going to, full-blown go into anything too big on TV. They're just not. It's going to be all character-based, maybe some fun action, but that's about it. In my opinion. I'd love to be proven wrong. Definitely don't want to appear like I'm some know-it-all, but I just feel like there's certain things they wouldn't do on TV. I'm reading the Marvel Universe chronologically and currently at 1974. Wow, that sounds like a big undertaking, first of all. It's so good to watch your videos about those eras while reading them. Yeah, can I do a video about Steve Englehart and his tropes? Probably. Yeah, I think I'd like to do that. Have I considered making a video on the history of Vertigo Comics? I have. I definitely think that, a video on some of the editors at the time, Karen Berger, for instance, would definitely be worthwhile and worth exploring. So yeah, that's definitely something I might do. I've got a little printout of what Vision wears, so I'm just sort of looking at that every once in a while to the side here. Sort of try to get his costume right. Sort of try. How about maybe nail it? Maybe that would be better. It's going to turn out the villain is Howard the Duck. Well, we've already seen Howard the Duck a couple times in the movies, as a good guy, so I don't think he's going to be the villain. But you never know. My sister just showed up. Hey, Jean. Are you going to stay up till 3 a.m. your time and watch WandaVision? I wouldn't recommend it. Why don't you watch it tomorrow? Do creators' opinions affect your views of their work? To a degree, absolutely they do. I think that, I don't have to agree with everything a creator says. So there's plenty of times where I'm just like, nah, difference of opinion. That's okay. I can enjoy what they create. But there's certain stances, like, if somebody goes too far and, like, basically does outright hate speech or something, where I'm just like, I don't want to support that. I can't separate it at a certain level. If other people can, to a degree, more power to them. But yeah, like, if it's like, for something like a comic book and the person is like, openly espousing hate speech, yeah, personally, I just can't support it. I just turns me off. And I can't make a separation and forget about that and just enjoy a story because I just can't not think about that. It's always been a debate, how much can people separate the creator from their work? It's an interesting question, too. Greetings from Brazil. Your video analysis are awesome. Obrigado. Very much appreciate that, Daniel. I was supposed to be in Brazil for like what is it, CCXP this past year in 2020 in like November or whenever that was. Had tickets. Obviously, COVID canceled those plans. So hopefully someday I get to visit your country. I'd very much like to visit Brazil. I love traveling. I love it. What do I think about the potential Calvin Ellis Superman reboot? I think it's a good idea, but I'm not too happy about J.J. Abrams being involved. I don't know what to think yet. Too early. We'll see. It's really hard to separate creator and their work when it's something you grew up with and have a strong emotional connection to. Well, I agree with that. If you didn't know about like something and you grew up loving it, that happens. And, maybe later you find out, oh, geez, this creator isn't such a good person and I wish I knew. But you love what you love, and I get it. I do. Thoughts on the X-Men reboot in the works? Are you talking comics or are you talking movies? I don't know. I just want to say, folks, first of all, let's see, how long has this stream been going? Let me check on something. I've been recording for about an hour, and I've already made $4.99. So if you out there at home have ever thought, like, should I get into, like, YouTube or something? All I can say is, hell yes. Because when you can make up to $4.99 an hour with your time, think of all the things you could do with that. Like, I could literally, right now, if I felt like it, buy a comic book. I could buy it. Or I could pay for, about half a day's worth of electricity use to do this stuff. There's a lot that you can do there. I'm just being silly. I read Ender's Game before I knew about Orson Scott Card. Yeah, that's sort of a thing that I think about. Dangerously. I knew about Orson Scott Card, and so I was like, yeah, I don't have any interest in reading his Iron Man run. I don't have any interest in watching the Ender's Game movie. Thoughts on Godzilla? I love Godzilla. Big Godzilla fan. Do I have any Godzilla stuff here? How strange. I guess I don't. I've got little Godzilla figures. Oh, wait a minute. I felt like I'd have to have something Godzilla-esque here. Here we go. This is a Mothra that I got at the Godzilla store in Tokyo the last time I visited. It was in a capsule. Like, you'd get like one random Godzilla kaiju. Nothing too fancy. It was only like, I don't know, 100 yen or something like that, like $1, maybe $2. So yeah, I love Godzilla. I love all of Godzilla. Do I love every Godzilla movie? No, not really. There are some that are kind of boring, to be honest. But in general, I just love the idea of Godzilla. There's a lot of Godzilla stuff that I love. Is Byrne a comic artist? Yeah, John Byrne is a pretty famous comic book artist. So it's definitely upsetting that, like, he's always been a problematic creator. Oh, wow, Egg Flanders. You know what? You're right. I should get back into streaming. Thanks for the awesome videos. Me and my dad love them. Wow. Well, that's amazing to me that, like, that's something that you could watch and talk about together. Yeah. Thank you very much for the super chat. Honestly, that you just doubled what I earned. So thank you. You made my day. You did. Platinum asks, what's my favorite era of Godzilla? Showa, Heisei, Millennium, or Reiwa? That is tough. I would say that the overall quality of the Heisei era might make it my favorite. But it's so hard because, like, I definitely grew up watching the most of the Showa era, and the original is legit fantastic. Watched it a couple months ago. Still holds up so well. My favorite overall Godzilla movie is Shin Godzilla, I think. I had to think about it, but I was like, no, I do like that one the most. And I hope that someday, they get back to Japan. Toho gets back to making their own live-action movies. Hey, it's Milo. It's my cat Milo. Look at that. I like Godzilla 97. Yeah, I get it. I didn't care for that one. Sorry, that's all. It just, like, sucked my energy out. I was just like, I just realized how awful that reaction was, and it cracked me up. I wanted to like it. Oh, I don't expect anybody to donate, Rithvik, so that's fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. Shin Godzilla rules. Definitely. Hi, Poopy. That's this guy. She's saying, because this poor guy, Milo's an old man. Milo's about to turn 17 soon. So he's a kind of an old dude, but he's a good buddy. And I was terrified 1 week ago that it was time to put Milo to sleep because he had been having bathroom problems, and I was really, really worried about him. But it turned out he was constipated. Doctor gave him some medicine. This guy's got a huge appetite now. He's got plenty of energy. He's been a total cuddle bug this whole last week. Mwah! I love this cat. This is my boy. And he makes me very, very happy. Are you Team Godzilla or Team Kong? I'm very conflicted. Because I also do love King Kong. An American original, what a creation. And so there's a lot that I love about King Kong. There's parts of me that are leaning strongly towards being Kong. I just like how tough he looks in this movie, and like when they say things like Kong bows to no one, I'm like, that's so badass. There's a small part of me that wonders if the Godzilla that we're seeing in the movie is sort of, the son of Godzilla or something as compared to the original. There's a big part of me that wonders that in this movie. Godzilla has had, offspring in, 3 or 4, no, more than that, several movies. Sometimes even becoming, full-size, looks exactly like Godzilla. Technically, actually, the original Godzilla died in the first movie, and then, everything from Godzilla Raids Again forward in the Showa era was, another Godzilla. But anyway. Whoa! Thank you, Sam. Sam, that's so nice of you. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the super chat. I'm of Iranian descent. 300 is seen as overly racist and hateful in my community, but that never got traction when the movie came out. Do you think there's less critical view when it's a beloved book? Maybe. It depends on the point of view of who's telling the story, because it's based on history. It's fictionalized, of course, but it's based on history. And, you know, for a Western audience, it's just very easy to just sort of get behind the interesting culture of Sparta. And it's not necessarily about demonizing the enemies. They just had, you know, enemies with Persians. As to how they were depicted and stuff like that, you know, I'll be honest. If that was considered overly racist to Iranians, that's the first time I've heard that. So I'll look into that and see if that's, you know, a prevalent opinion, because that's news to me and I'd want to know. So thanks for sharing that. Isn't the basis of Godzilla's skeleton the basis for the original Mechagodzilla? I think it was for the Godzilla in the Heisei area. I don't think it was the basis for the original Mechagodzilla. I think the original Mechagodzilla was just a robot, if I'm remembering right. Would you ever consider doing a video on Sandman or the Invisibles? No question. No question, Chris Cueva. I would definitely love to. Boy, I'm drawing slowly, aren't I? I was having a lot more fun just sort of chatting with all of you. So let's focus a little on getting some detail in here, and maybe some color. Maybe that would be interesting to do. We'll see. Oh, hold on. Another super chat just came in. Let's take a look at that. Messing around? Keep doing you? I will keep doing me. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really enjoy your Golden Age hero reviews. That era of comic books is always bonkers. I also love your more historical episodes, like the one about Matt Baker. That's nice. So that's definitely been something I've been talking about a lot with my patrons lately. You know, like what do they like and not like? And a lot of people are saying, hey, Chris, you haven't really been doing any sort of funny stuff in a while. And there's probably an unconscious reason for that, and I think that's mostly just that, 2020 was a tough year, and it isn't like it's really ended yet or anything. So, yeah, I've definitely not been in a super jokey mood, I guess you could say. But I do like doing funny stuff. I've got some ideas, and that's probably what makes me unique, like amongst like any YouTube commenters, is like, when I try to do some of the funnier stuff. So I get it. I get that that's what people sometimes want. Mooper Sand sends me some sort of like a lemon with, like, I don't know, maybe like a melon worshipping that lemon. I don't know. It's like a superhero lemon, but I like it. Thank you very much for the super sticker. That's nice. I think covering that whole 90s era of Vertigo is full of video possibilities. Oh, no question. No question. Why so serious? Yeah, maybe I have been too serious. Some of that just comes from real life, But it's a good point, and I want to give people, to a degree, what they want, and noted. Would I ever consider doing a video of Green Lantern by Jeff Johns? I would consider it, but if I did, I'll be honest, it probably wouldn't be that favorable, and there's so many things that I love that I'd love to talk about first, but I do sometimes want to talk about comics that I don't like and why I don't like them, because I do think you can learn some things from that. I think that there is value there. I'm not a big fan of Jeff Johns, I've learned. And maybe there's something out there that he has written that I would like. So I'm not giving up on him per se, but it's... I did not care for things like, Doomsday Clock. I thought that was lacking. And I did read, what was his big Green Lantern story? Blackest Night, I didn't care for that. It wasn't for me. So I could do a video explaining why, and maybe there's some value there, but I'm sure that people might enjoy a little bit more me talking about, say, something that I did like. We'll see. We'll see. It's definitely something I've considered, talking about something like Blackest Night, but I just, not a big fan. Would you ever talk about Strange Embrace? I don't know what that is. I don't know. Recently discovered Sam Keith met his future wife at 15 while she was about 30. Never knew about that. Sam Keith is somebody that I've thought of talking about. He sort of took himself out of the game a while ago. Like, he hasn't really done anything in a while, but I like Sam Keith. He's definitely very, very unique as an artist, especially for somebody that works in mainstream comics. Do you have an opinion, and would you please share it with us, on all the variant covers that are homages? I don't think that I exactly have a strong opinion. As long as it's noted as an homage, I think it's a valid form of artistic interpretation. As far as, like, multiple variant covers, it's business. I think as long as people are having fun with a couple variant covers, cool. That makes sense. If it leads to speculation in comics, that's when I get nervous, because I've seen it happen before when people just invest in comics as an investment. It does not go well for the comics industry. So definitely nervous about that. The Smurfs was a deep comic with deep character arcs. It may well be. I've never read the original French comics by Peo, right? What did I think of Future State? Yeah, I was asked that earlier. Haven't read it, so didn't really interest me too much. Some of the covers looked interesting. There was a new version of, like, Wonder Woman, and I don't know who drew it, but I saw the cover and, like, flipped through, and I was like, wow, that looks like an interesting character, actually, and I like the costume and everything, but I didn't pick up any of the Future State stuff, sorry. Strange Embrace is a horror comic. Okay, well, I do love horror comics, so that's I appreciate it. That's awesome. I didn't read IDW's Beast Wars. Is that a Transformers? Is that what you're talking about? I definitely didn't read that, sorry. I loved Transformers as a kid, though. Boy, if my sister's still here, she could tell you. There was no bigger Transformers stan than me. That is just the truth. Boy, oh boy. I had a lot of Transformers, and I bought a lot of them myself. I started working, like, pretty young with, like, a couple paper routes and mowing a lot of lawns, and then eventually, like, babysitting. All before, I was, like, when I was 16, I started working, like, also a, at Walgreens as a clerk. But, boy, did I have a lot of Transformers. None of them anymore. I sold them all. But, I had a lot. I'm not kidding. Like, a lot. I had tons of them. Joelle Jones did Future State Wonder Woman. Oh, well, Joelle Jones is incredible, so there you go. I didn't realize. Yara Flor is the name of the new Wonder Girl. Okay. I couldn't touch them. I didn't let you touch my Transformers? I could have sworn, like, I'd let you touch them. I wasn't like, really? Yeah, and now, of course, I don't even have them. I sold them all. Yeah, I liked my Transformers. I liked them a lot. What was the biggest one that I had, Gene? I'm trying to think. Like, what was the biggest Transformer that I had? Probably Trypticon. I know Omega Supreme and Metroplex were also pretty big. I'm trying to think if I had a Transformer that was bigger than any of them. I think Trypticon was probably my biggest one. He would set them up all over the family room, and I wasn't allowed to play with them. Well, folks, just to be clear, I mean, first of all, I was pretty young, and my sister's 3 years younger than me, so, obviously I couldn't let her touch my Transformers. Like, she would break them, right? That was definitely like my biggest concern, I think, at the time, was having my Transformers broken. Stingy brother. I shared other things. I know that I shared other things. And I also know that, like, as I got older, you would, like, borrow certain things without me asking, and I let it slide. You would always take my Salt and Pepper CDs. I was into rap. I had a lot of rap CDs. I would always find my Salt and Pepper. Oh, I say CDs. They were tapes. Yeah, I probably will talk about other runs that I'm not a huge fan of at some point, Quilty. I would definitely give that some strong consideration. Why do you seal your Transformers? I didn't seal them up. They were all opened. Let's see. Transformers Gate. Yeah. Salt and Pepper tapes. Yep. She wasn't a snotty sister. I'll stop it there. Jean is an amazing sister. She definitely did a lot of things that I wanted to do, like, growing up. And certainly, like, by the time I was a teenager, like, I wanted to watch stuff like Evil Dead and Army of Darkness. And she probably wouldn't have watched that on her own, but she definitely watched it with me. Didn't, like, leave, didn't say, no, we have to watch something different. So that was awesome. Favorite hip-hop album? License to Ill by the Beastie Boys. Definitely. What a man. Yeah. Let me see. I just noticed that up here on my shelf, so I don't have my Transformers from when I was a kid, but I do have one or two from, like, modern day. And I got this one time when I was in Japan. It's Blitzwing, a triple changer, and he's got, like, a little elephant that transforms into a gun. Oh, and he's a headmaster too. So they just, like, threw all the gimmicks into this one. So that's kind of fun. And his head can pilot the jet or pilot the tank. That's just cute. Oh, and his gun can transform into a tank or an elephant. So, and the head can drive the tank. So that's hilarious. I've got a couple of these from Japan. I also have one that's a GTR, which is one of my favorite vehicles, the Nissan GTR. So I've got that. Oh, Super Chat. Any plans to make an episode on Jason Aaron? Well, I have to admit, Joseph, I didn't have any plans, but it's definitely an idea that I'm interested in. Like, yeah, like that could be very very cool. Let's see. Blitzwing is my favorite. Did you see the original Evil Dead? Oh yeah. I love those movies. I'm a huge nerd for all that stuff. I'll just color a little bit, I guess. I don't think this is quite coming out like, amazing, but just sort of felt like drawing Wanda and Vision tonight because I am excited for the season finale of the show. It's definitely one I've been enjoying. I hope that you guys are enjoying it too. In general, I really like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In general, I really, really like it. And I think a lot of the credit does have to be given to Kevin Feige. I was recently watching an interview with Hugh Jackman, who was commenting on how when they were making the original X-Men movies, the director Bryan Singer wouldn't allow any comic books on set and told the actors not to read them because it was supposed to be his vision of the X-Men. And Kevin Feige was just sort of like a production assistant working for producer Avi Arad, and he knew the comics, so that's why he was like sort of there and working on them. And he would sneak copies of X-Men comics onto the set to give to the actors to help them with their performance. And Hugh Jackman was talking about how that helped, that helped him make his performance. And man, he gave a great Wolverine. No matter what you feel of any of the X-Men movies, I think you have to admit that Hugh Jackman was a fantastic Wolverine. So anyway, it was definitely interesting to hear those stories. I'm not sure you have done it yet, but have you considered doing an episode on either Ramita? I'd love to do each of them. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you think the original Human Torch or even Submariner? Do I think? I don't know what that means. Feige genuinely loves the characters. Singer didn't, and Snyder clearly doesn't love DC characters. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that, like... So, Snyder seems to be... I don't know for a fact, but he seems to be an objectivist, just like Steve Ditko, and I think it sort of informs his opinions on, like, how a superhero should act and be, and I feel like he doesn't really think that superheroes need to be selfless, you know, that if they decide to be, that's up to them, but they don't need to be. And I sort of disagree. I think that if you have that power, you do have the responsibility. For instance, Zack Snyder could never, literally never make a good Spider-Man movie because he doesn't get what makes that character tick. He just would not fit. It would never work. Spider-Man's all about, like, I've got great power. It brings with it great responsibility. And you can see that because, like, for instance, in Man of Steel, what does Zack Snyder have Pa Kent tell Superman? To hide his powers. Even at the expense of his own life. I mean, the guy can move at super speed or use his super breath, but no, like, he wouldn't let his own son save him in front of people. He's like, no, you have to hide this because otherwise, you know, people will want something of you and you don't want to, like, you don't want to have to give that to them. And then in the Justice League movie, what does Zack Snyder have Clark Kent's mother tell him? Be a hero to them, Clark, or don't. It's up to you. You don't owe them a damn thing. She literally says that. Both cases, you've got, like, you know, your guiding force telling him, like, do whatever you want. Like, you don't owe anybody anything. Well, I personally don't agree with that, and even if I did agree with that, I think it would make for a boring superhero. How can you be heroic if you don't want to be selfless? You know, like, what's heroic about only watching out for yourself and what you care about? I don't think that that's necessarily heroic. Being heroic isn't always the smart or rational thing, but it's putting others ahead of yourself, at least partially, right? So yeah, like, I don't think he gets that. Pa Kent just wanted to get out of the marriage. We never saw it. Like, it seemed like Ma and Pa Kent got along great, but he was just like, a tornado? This is my ticket out of here. This is the only way out. Snyder doesn't believe in what makes Superman Superman. I don't think he quite does. I don't think that, like, yeah, that's interesting, Baby Bush J4. Does Clark owe humanity? Not necessarily. That's not like the same as Spider-Man. That's not his motivation. But he wants to be good. He was brought up in a very loving environment, and he was loved unconditionally, and he grew up to love others unconditionally. And I think that that's what makes him a hero, because obviously with Superman's power, you know, he could change the whole world. But what makes him a hero isn't even necessarily saving people, it's that he decides to save people as compared to run the world. Am I interested in his cut of Justice League? I'm curious, and I'm going to watch it so that I can review it or comment on it for my patrons. I would not say that I am very interested in it. Not really interested in it, no. What else? Yeah, the Man of Steel movie was where his father died. There was like a tornado, and like Clark easily could have saved him, probably a million different ways, and Pa's just like, and he just lets himself get killed. I don't get it, man. I'm like, what are you trying to prove? Now, when Pa Kent dies of something like a heart attack, think about that. That's so much more interesting to me, because as much power as Superman has, of course he's not going to be able to save his father from like a heart attack. Not really. I mean, you'd have to like really come up with a stretch for his powers to save him from a heart attack. Like, oh, I heard his heart like beat like 3 months ago. But if his father's like in danger from like a storm, well, Superman can save him from that, and he decides not to. But it's so much more powerful to realize that, like, as powerful as he can be, that Superman does have limits, and he can't save everybody, and it makes life that much more valuable. Sorry, these are my opinions. I think that a true depiction of Superman would fly. There's a new Superman TV show, and in the first few minutes, they have him do a line right out of that Superman book that he did, like a Superman for All Seasons by Loeb and Sale. He saves somebody who compliments him on the suit, and he says, "Thanks, my mom made it for me." It's super quick, makes him kind of nerdy, but so likable, and you're like, yeah. This is a good take on Superman. I like this guy. He's not just there. I like him. So yeah. Mad did a great skit on Man of Steel. Oh, I never saw that. It's interesting. Original Pa Kent teaches Clark that he can't overtone? Huh. Snyder's Pa Kent teaches Clark explicitly not to, and it fundamentally changes the entire character. Yeah. Anyway, obviously, I'm kind of like just at this point just beating up on Zack Snyder. Not really my point. I do think Zack Snyder is capable of doing good movies. I just don't really love his writing. I don't think he gets the characters quite like the way I want them to be understood. But there is room for different interpretations. I guess I don't have to like every superhero movie. I will say that like Henry Cavill deserves better, I think, because he has been in some movies and I'm like, oh, Henry Cavill is like pretty charismatic. How good was he, for instance, as sort of the heavy in Mission Impossible 6, I want to say? He was so good. And you're like, wow, if he could bring, even a piece of that charm to Superman, like, what a great Superman movie we could get. But he's so, like, sort of held back by the script. What do you think of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam, or some of the other DC movies not made by Snyder? They're better. I think that of those, the first Wonder Woman movie was probably the best. Second Wonder Woman movie definitely had some flaws, again, in the script. Again, like, it's mostly the script. But the Shazam was pretty fun. Aquaman was so ridiculous, and that's kind of why I like it. It was so ridiculous. Nothing wrong with some ridiculousness here and there. Henry Cavill would be a great Superman if he was given more than 6 lines of dialogue in his movies, right? He's so sort of like stoic and quiet, and Superman is not like some sort of quiet guy. Is he an alien? Yeah, but he wasn't raised that way. And I think that, like, that's kind of the important thing about Superman, is that, like, how he was raised informs who he is. Which I think a lot of us would like to believe, that, like, we're not inherently good or bad. We can make our own decisions on who and what we are. Do you think Brat Pack could ever be adapted to a show or movie? I mean, I guess technically anything probably can be. Would it would, oh boy, would that be dark. I don't think it would go over that well. I think it's best as a comic book, especially since it comments on comic books and comic book history and stuff. I don't think it would translate that well into a different medium. Interesting idea. Interesting question. Thoughts on Shang-Chi? Shang-Chi could be really cool. Those are some underrated comics back in the day. Paul Gulacy artwork, great. And I'm a sucker for good martial arts movies. I love stuff like, lately, The Raid. What else has been good lately for that? The First Ip Man, maybe. SPL with Donnie Yen. It's been a while since we've had a lot of good martial arts movies, but certainly in the 90s, stuff like Fist of Legend with Jet Li, stuff like Drunken Master 2, or, Police Story movies with Jackie Chan. Yeah, I love good martial arts movies, so I really hope that, they just have the best fight choreography in Shang-Chi. As long as they've got good fight choreography, I am all in. Yeah, I did watch the Superman and Lois pilot. I kind of liked it. It wasn't what I was expecting. It just wasn't. So, yeah, I liked it. Miami Connection. There's a movie. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I would think Red Letter Media has to have covered Miami Connection at some point in one of their best of the worst. If not, look up some reviews of Miami Connection if you want a good time, because I'm sure that some people have done some pretty funny reviews. Or I wonder, what's that one? There's another show that reviews bad movies. The host, his name is Mark, and I can't remember what his show is called. It might be something like Fanboy Films. It's not coming to me right now. Oh, Cody Hicks. Do you think Mephisto will make an appearance tonight? I don't, Cody. I think that villain would be held for a movie. He's just too big. Also, I think if they were going to use him, they might have seed planted that a little more clearly by now. Could somebody be behind Agatha? Yes. Mephisto, I think that would be a stretch at this point. I think it's a little too late in the game to bring him in. I could see another demon, obviously Wanda has a history with one called Chthon, or maybe sort of a character like Nightmare, because sort of a Doctor Strange villain. I could sort of see them setting that up for the next Doctor Strange movie, but I don't expect it to be Mephisto. I don't think that's going to be on the show. It's possible, but I don't think so. You asked my opinion. Do you believe the Spider-Man 3 rumors? I don't think I know what the Spider-Man 3 rumors are. Oh, unfortunately, Ray says Fanboy Flicks. Yeah, that's a great channel, by the way. If you like Red Letter Media, you'd probably also like Fanboy Flicks. I think Mark is really funny guy, and he reviews some bad movies, and he's good at it. He's really good. He knows cinema, which means that his criticisms aren't just funny, but they come from a very real place. Cody Hicks says, here's a refund for Amazing Spider-Man One More Day. Well, obviously you don't owe me that, but I appreciate the super chat nevertheless. That's very, very kind of you, Cody, and very funny. Thank you. One More Day. Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan. Oh, well. Agatha wants Wanda's power to resurrect someone close to her. Yeah, maybe. She did mention Ralph a couple times, so maybe. There's also, technically, there's a few things that are like, left to be answered. For instance, Jimmy Woo was looking for a missing person in Westview, or specifically somebody in the Witness Protection Program. Is that anybody important, or is that just sort of what incited everything? If that's somebody important, that could be interesting to see. But if it was important, it probably would have been brought up by now. Anyway, I'm excited for. I stay up till midnight my time to watch it, like right when it comes out. It's worth it to stay up that late. I can still get a good night's sleep. I'm liking the coloring here. Red and pink versus green. Yeah, trying. Just messing around, really, more than anything else. Just messing around. Spider-Man One More Day was the first comic you ever bought. I'm glad that you're still reading comics, Hellrider. That's amazing. That's most people might have run for the hills at that point. More power to you for sticking around and giving comics another chance. I wish I had some different colors. I don't have that many colors with me, but just having some fun with what I do have. I need to eat some dinner soon. It's pretty late, but I haven't eaten yet. Have you seen The Devils by Ken Russell with Oliver Reed? No, I haven't. But I'm always looking for a good recommendation, so thank you. Appreciate it. Do you ever plan to show off your art supplies? Not really, Gabriel. I don't have that many that are that impressive. I've got, my mechanical pencil and my rubber eraser. I have some, inking tools. I have some Copic markers. That's about it. Nothing too fancy. Just messing around. Just having fun. Just something to do while I chat with everybody. Interesting question. Sorry I don't have more to talk about. Now, my fiance is a painter. A very talented one, in my opinion. And I've always been pushing Chrissy to start a YouTube channel because I think that people would love to see not just her paintings, but like her process videos, her tools, her visits to, galleries and art supply stores. I think that there's definitely an audience for all that stuff. It's up to her, but I think that there's definitely a lot of interesting stuff to talk about there. Given the nature of MCU and things that might be important later on, maybe that missing person is someone that might not really be important for the story of WandaVision, but will be important later. Definitely a possibility. Do you just keep these pictures or do you sell them? No, I don't think that they're necessarily worth selling. I really just do it for myself, and that's about it. Yeah. Not 100% sure if I'm coloring Vision correctly for his MCU. I've just got like a tiny little picture to the side that I'm glancing at here and there to see if I can get it right, but we'll see. I'm going to do another couple of things to these colors too to sort of blend them and make some interesting colors. You'll see that in a bit. But mostly just messing around, having fun. Man, I can't wait till I can get vaccinated, and then once we're allowed to travel around, because I really miss traveling. I miss going to other countries and even other states and stuff like that. I miss conventions. Ugh. Whoa! A super chat. Let's see. Apex Comics says Tales of Zero on Indiegogo. First 24-hour backers get a 3D poster. Support my wraparound cover. Great WandaVision art. Okay, so Apex Comics there is plugging his whatchamacallit, his Indiegogo. I was about to say Kickstarter and it didn't feel right. So his Kickstarter. So that's fair. The hustle is real. I can't speak to its quality, of course, but thank you for the super chat, and definitely makes sense to go and make a determination yourself if that's something worth supporting. Totally appreciate the hustle. Yeah, I thought that adding this gray might give this pink just a little bit more of a purple, and I like it. Been a while, just popping in to say hey and support the channel. Also, happy 50th this month, Man Thing. Wow, I didn't realize that. 50th. I did an episode on Man Thing, but it was not about one of his best comics. I did an episode on Man Thing written by the guy who did those Goosebumps stuff, and I can't remember his name right now. Wasn't so good in my opinion. Wasn't so good. But I do like the character of Man Thing. He's got a lot of potential that I don't think has been fully realized in his history. This is sometimes the most fun stuff about, and thanks again, by the way, Najiat, for the super chat. That's really nice of you. This is one of the most fun things about just messing around with Copics is that you can blend them to get like different colors and stuff. I like that a lot. Purple looking good. Thank you. Thank you. The way I said that just reminded me of Dan Harmon. It wasn't intended to, but Dan Harmon used to have a podcast I really like called Harmontown. It's wrapped up, but what it has made me think about is, outside of like YouTube, what are some of the podcasts that you guys like? What do you listen to regularly for a podcast? Always curious to hear about those. Yeah, that worked all right. Thoughts on Peter Baggy's work? Peter Baggy's interesting. As far as indie stuff goes, some of it definitely makes me laugh. I'm a little more into like some of the realistic stuff like Dan Clowes, but yeah, I like Peter Baggy. Have I done a Morrison video? I covered their work in an episode about Animal Man. Yeah. What will you do when this whole COVID thing is over? When it's over, go out to the movies, go out to a restaurant, take Chrissy out to eat, see my friends again, maybe get to play Dungeons and Dragons in person, which I haven't done in like well over a year now. It's probably been a year and a half since I've done anything like that. And most importantly, travel. As soon as I can, I think we're going to... Well, first trip will be to see my family. First trip will be to see my family in the Boston area. I miss them a lot. I haven't seen them in a long time now. So as soon as I can do it safely, I'm going to fly out and see them. And then once we do that, I'm going to take another trip to Japan, I think, because I miss Japan a lot. I'd like to go back there. So yeah. How about you guys? What are some of the first things you want to do as soon as it's safe to get out and about and sort of go back to the way things used to be? What are some of the important things to you? Is there a reason why Wanda in her classic costume? Easier to draw, I guess. Just having fun. Just having fun. Go to the movies with my brother. Can't stay for the stream, have to sleep. Okay. A job is an important thing to me. Oh, yeah. Well, definitely. Let's see. Giving friends a big sloppy smooch. This person listens to the Pizza Party podcast and the Weekly Planet. I've only just recently discovered the Weekly Planet. It's a lot of fun. I really like it. I like those guys. They're funny. Haven't seen you since 2017? That's not possible, Gene. We didn't see each other in 2020, but I definitely would have visited you in 2019. It hasn't been over 3 years. That doesn't make sense. What else? I want to go out to an all-you-can-eat sushi. Ooh, that sounds fun. Do you have any tips on getting better proportions? Well, obviously, I still need, help there myself, so not really. All I can say is drawing from real life is what helps you the most. The other thing that helps me is, can't really see it anymore, but I will usually block out, the characters in big shapes first, and then fit them within those sort of boxes and bubbles and stuff, because it's easier to tell if something's in proportion when you're just sort of dealing with shapes instead of actually going into the detail. So those are just a couple things that you could start looking at. Hey, cat. I'm going to look at the questions in just a sec. Obviously, just taking a quick moment here to add a little bit of shadows and stuff because I'm having fun. Sometimes when I'm having fun, I get quiet because, I don't know, I'm just starting to get engaged in the process. All right, let's see. Any comic book artists you watch stream on YouTube? Not me, but I'd love to hear if there's any that are good out there. That's an interesting question. I'd love to watch good artists stream. Any shows or movies you're really excited about? Really excited about? Good question. I'm excited about Godzilla vs. Kong, I guess, and I'm excited to see some Marvel movies again. As far as, something good, a prestige drama or something, I feel like I haven't been exposed to any commercials for anything, deep or clever or anything lately, so I don't know. I'm always looking for recommendations, so if you've got one, lay it on me. If you like the Weekly Planet, they have a YouTube channel called Mr. Sunday Movies. Yeah, that's how I discovered them, actually. I like that. It's they've got a good editor or series of editors, and they get their stuff out fast. I definitely am just a one-man band, so I cannot get my videos out that fast, or I would love to do stuff like, commenting on, here the last WandaVision came out, here's my thoughts on that one. But I did one on WandaVision for the first 4 episodes, finding the references to the comics. The reason I haven't really made a second one is that one covered a lot of the comics that they are adapting, and most of the other stuff is kind of just really, really minor. I don't think it would necessarily make for anywhere near as interesting an episode. Now, if they do anything big tonight in terms of pulling from different comics. Maybe I'd make another one. But even though it's not listing, the other episodes like, comic by comic, it all is pulling from the same comics that I mentioned for the first 4 episodes. So there's not a lot of extra stuff I've got to say about that. For sure, Ben the editor is fantastic. Is that who does it? Some guy named Ben? Awesome. Yeah, he's really good. That makes those Mr. Sunday Movies videos for me is the editing. Of course, they're super funny guys, too. Like, doing a show with a friend would be awesome. Like, sometimes that's the one thing that I really miss about... Not miss, but, like, wish I could do on my show. Is it's just me, And I love joking around with my friends, but I don't have, like, a comedian friend here that I could be doing the show with. I wish I did. That would be a lot of fun to, like... I think I could be a lot funnier if I had somebody to riff off of. Yeah, MODOK is getting that show with by Patton Oswalt, huh? I love Patton, so I don't have Hulu, but I'm sure that will be a good show. Like, he's a funny guy. He definitely has his nerd credentials. Patton Oswalt is the best. Seen him perform stand-up several times. Love it. One of my favorites. Great guy. So I'm sure that he'll do a good job with MODOK. I can't see how he couldn't. He's just too talented. There's someone I'd love to see do like a monthly comic of some sort, not necessarily an existing superhero. If he had his own idea, I'd love to read something like that. He's done a little bit here and there, but I'd love to see him do like, an ongoing monthly book for a while someday. Like, I think that would be incredible. I don't know if that's something he wants to do or has the time for, but I would be all the way in. All the way. I'm new to your channel. Do you have any episodes that you are especially proud of that you can recommend? Oh, well, thank you first of all for checking out my channel, Gabriel. Yeah, there are a couple episodes I think that stand out to me as ones that I like maybe a little more than others. I think that like my episode on the history of lettering, I'm proud of that one. I think that my episode on Akira is one that I'm quite proud of. Those are two that jump out. I've been doing this now for like 4 years, so a lot of times they sort of elude me for a while. I'm always thinking of several steps ahead, like what's coming up, and I don't always remember my own episodes that well. But thank you, Gabriel. Those are two that leap to mind. Juggernaut, thank you for the super chat. Keep going, Chris. In life, you are the best. Well, I think you're the best. That's very good. Whoa, and now here's another one following it. Stephen Germain with a $20 super chat. Very generous, Stephen. Keep reading comics. Thanks for your shows. It's my pleasure. It really is. I thank you. And sincerely, I mean that when I say at the end of each episode, keep reading comics. I mean, there's so much good stuff out there to discover. And it's also just good to read, It's good to read. It's good for the industry. It's good for you. The Drink and Draw guys also did interviews with other comic book artists, yeah. My sister says that she likes my interviews. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely want to do more interviews. I love doing interviews, just for the record. I love it. I, back in the day, used to do a podcast. It was called Television Zombies. Pretty dated right now. Not really worth looking up, because like I say, it was years ago, and mostly what we did was I'd have a segment where we riffed on the news, what kind of stuff was coming up for TV. And we're talking like genre and sci-fi and supernatural type TV, that kind of stuff. Then we'd talk about like what was out this week, what we liked, what we didn't. And then I would have a segment where I interviewed an actor, a writer, a director from, like, various shows like Game of Thrones and Lost and, I don't know, Doctor Who and things like that. And it was great. I loved it. Some of them I got to do in person. Most of them I did on the phone. But I think it definitely, like, helped me, like, just doing them, like, every single week for a little over a year. I did that segment. And, like, every single week I had to line up guests. I got to talk to people like Stan Lee. I got to talk to people like George R.R. Martin and all sorts of other, like, big names that I can't even remember right now off the top of my head. But I grew to really love the process of preparing and trying to guide someone through an interview to discover something hopefully new, or at least new to the audience. And so I love that. I love that process, and I'd love to do more in comics. That could really be its own full-time show or something, but I like doing the retrospectives and maybe finding some funny comics, so I like doing a bit of everything. But there's definitely some people that I would love to interview on my show. Some of the ones that are, like, high priorities right now that I would love to talk to include Larry Hama. He's always been someone I've wanted to talk to just because he's been in comics for a long time. He knows everybody, and I like his work a lot. The episode on Bernie Krigstein, someone suggested. Yes, that is an episode that I'm very proud of. Bernie Krigstein is an episode I'm quite proud of. I'd also love to talk to Scott Snyder right now, because I thought this new comic that I read this week, Noctera, was a great premise. I'm very interested to talk to him about why he decided to do Kickstarter first and then Image. I think that would be very interesting to go into, as well as, his big stuff that he does at like DC. That's an interesting career for, like, somebody like sort of more modern. I'd love to be able to talk to, some of my favorite manga creators, like, say, Naoki Urasawa or something. Right now, my Japanese just isn't good enough. I hope someday I can get fluent enough that I could do interviews with Japanese creators. That would mean a lot to me if I could ever do that. One that I am working on arranging, and it probably won't be for a while, but I'm talking to a manga translator who lives locally, and he translates manga and stuff like that. He's done some really big books that you definitely all know, so I think that would be an interesting conversation. What do you think was the most interesting thing you had never heard before that you learned from one of the interviews you did? It's hard to remember, to be honest, just because it isn't like you do one and then you're proud of it and you think back on, like, and reflect on it. It's like you're always trying to think of, like, what's the next thing, what are you doing next? Like, okay, cool, you did that seemed to come out all right, put it out, let the world judge it, get whatever they can out of it, but you need to focus on what's next. And if you hear, like, really good or really bad things about it, okay, then you can tweak how you're doing things. I would say one of the interesting things, though, that I got out of an interview was, like, more recently I talked to Robert Kirkman, and he really did open up about why he was not a good fit at Marvel and how he did not enjoy his time there. I think that was pretty interesting. He really opened up in a big way. That was interesting. Who is the greatest superhero of all time, and why is it NFL Super Pro? Well, there you go. You answered your question. Al Ewing. Yeah, Al Ewing's been doing some great stuff lately. That's for sure. What do you think was the most interesting thing you... Oh, I just read that one. That means that I guess we're getting pretty caught up on questions. I guess this is as good a time as any to take off, because I've been doing this for a while and I haven't eaten yet. So, I appreciate everybody being here. Thanks for letting me just sort of doodle around, do something fun here. Is it great? No. Was it fun? Yeah, very fun. I really liked hanging out with everybody and getting some questions and just talking comics and stuff. It means a lot to me. I've definitely got a lot of ideas right now for episodes. Am I going to get to a place where I can do them weekly? Not right now, I don't think. I think that I'm still going to realistically be on a slightly more like every other week schedule for a while. And I hope, I don't know, to get to weekly for this show, I'd probably at this point have to only be doing the show. Like, this would have to be my full-time job. I don't... Oh, Chrissy sent me a text. I did not get your text, Chrissy. My fiance's upstairs and she's texting me. Oh my God. Alright, she confirmed with me that the last time I saw my sister was in 2017. Well, that's unacceptable. Jean, 2021, my priority is seeing you. I promise. That is the truth. That is my first trip, is to come see you. Wow. We talk a lot on the phone, so I just felt like that wasn't possible, but okay. Chrissy says that it is. I lost my train of thought by hearing that. But, oh yeah, I don't think I can get to a weekly schedule. I've been trying really hard, and with my job, my job isn't like a standard 40-hour a week. I would say that it's usually closer to at least 50 hours that I have to put in, and my days off are a Monday and a Thursday. So I don't get 2 days off in a row, which also makes things a little tricky for like organizing and stuff. So right now I'm trying to just do as many episodes as I can, and I'm trying to vary it up with like, not just retrospectives of a creator, but sometimes I'll try to do a funny episode, like, a weird comic, and I'll try to do some interviews. So I'm going to try to vary it up a little bit more. If for some reason I ever have a video that's a breakout and the subscriber count goes up to the point where, I'm making some actual money on this, great. I would love to do this full time. I'll be honest, it's probably not realistic. There was a period of time where it seemed like it would be possible that I could do this full time because the subscriber count was growing really fast, and I was, the amount of money I made was growing. But it really plateaued at a certain point. I'm still growing. I'm not holding completely steady, and I'm definitely not going down, but it's growing very slowly. So obviously I probably would need to either be more consistent, which I can't, or, have really huge, guests or something like that to get to the next level. So I probably realistically can't do this full time as my living, which I would love to, but I'm just being honest with you. I don't think I'll get there unless I have some sort of really big breakthrough video that I'm not expecting. Oh wow, that connected with the audience, got me a bigger audience. Patreon is pretty good. It's sort of been decreasing. YouTube, I make hardly anything off of, honestly. I make some, and it's nice. And these super chats mean a lot to me. They really do. They really do. But I'm definitely not getting rich off of this, and it definitely isn't anything that I could pay my bills with. That's just not realistic. I thought it was heading in that direction, but realistically, I think I'd need to be at something like 250,000 subscribers, somewhere around there, to be making enough to do this full time. And I'm more at 140,000 or something like that. So at least another 100,000 is what I'd need to get there. That could take a while. That could take so long that by the time I get there, maybe I'm too old, for people to be interested. Anyway, just talking out loud about where the show is and stuff. Don't worry though, I'm not going anywhere. I love doing the show. I love these live chats where I can talk to you guys, talk about comics, and yeah, you should do a show with the Weekly Planet. I'd do it in a heartbeat if they had any idea who I was. They're a very big channel. They're not going to notice me right now, I don't think. Please do a video on Indian comics. You need a team, Chris. I do, Steven, but the thing is, I'm not a guy that's going to hire people and not pay them, and I don't make enough from this to pay people, so, it has to be a one-man show for now. It just does. I've looked into hiring an editor. To do what's fair for them, I can't afford it. I just can't. I can't, I'm not pulling in enough to even afford an editor, let alone, a team that could help me, promote things. But we'll see. Just so you know, there's an entire possibility that I may do some, like, sponsored videos at some point. Like, if I think that the product is decent, I might take those, because YouTube pays nothing. Like, it's just, the revenue there has gone so far down. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat, B-Flow. Definitely wasn't begging for that, but it is super appreciated. It really is. My Patreon is pretty good. I love those guys. Everybody that supports me on Patreon, they're my lifeblood. They're yeah. It's really nice that I do have some people that support that. But YouTube, the revenue there is pretty rinky-dink, if I'm being honest. So if I was offered a sponsorship at this point, and I've been offered a lot of sponsorships, and for 3 years I turned them down because I just didn't want to, like, have an annoying ad in the show. But just being realistic, that would help a lot. So I may take a sponsor at some point if it's a product that I at least I'm like, okay, that's not a scam. It's a halfway decent product. Yeah, just so you know, I might incorporate an ad in the future. Ray, thank you also for the super chat. Keep it up. Here we go. I'm working. And I'm working. Nothing wrong with sponsoring good product. Yeah, so we'll see. Have I read Ken Quattro's Invisible Men yet? I saw you did a recent video on Matt Baker. Well, if you watch all the way to the end, you'll see that I actually hold up that book, and I definitely got some useful information out of that. If you want more in-depth information on Matt Baker, that's why I held it up. You can learn a lot more from his book. I just sort of did an overview on some of the most important stuff. Mr. Sunday has done a few videos with Comic Pop, and they get less subs than you. I didn't know that. Oh, I talk to Sal every once in a while. Like, Sal's a great guy. I don't know what Sal's doing. He's doing something right with Comic Pop, because he tells me that he can make a living off of his YouTube show. I don't get the kind of money where I could do that, so I don't know what Sal's doing right, but he's doing something. What kind of products have you been offered to do sponsored videos on? Oh, yeah, I could talk about that a little bit. All right, I'm going to take off soon, but I will talk about that a little bit. Oh, and thank you, let's see, Anurag Jawale, thank you so much for, I don't know what kind of denomination of money that is, but no matter what, I appreciate the super chat. That's very kind of you. Some of the products that I've been offered, meal kits, of course, various, like, meal kits, a lot of, like, social media apps that you've never heard of. Things where they're like, oh, you can, like, have your supporters pay to essentially read something that's like a tweet, or hear your voice in, like, a super quick, like, opinion. And I'm like, I've got enough, like, on my plate managing my existing social channels, I don't need to add another one that I haven't heard of. Sorry. What are some of the weirder things that I've been offered to, like, sponsor? Various, like, things that just, like, don't fit at all with my channel, like, job boards. I have been offered some of the standard stuff, like, VPNs and, various, like, razors and stuff, and I just sort of, like, turned them all down. I don't know, at this point, if some of them came back, I'd give it some more thought, but I just turned it down. Like, I turned everything down for years because I just didn't want to have ads in my show. But at this point, like, I've just sort of realized that it has become more of a standard thing, that people will have a sponsored ad, and that it's not that big a deal. It doesn't, like, totally ruin the show. You're like, okay, yeah, there's an ad, whatever. Thank you, Royfield. That's so kind of you. Happy to support you. Well, thank you. That's very, very sweet of you. Raid Shadow Legends. Yeah, that's one that reached out to me. There's various games. There's all sorts of games. Some of them I've never heard of. Raid reached out to me. Well, I say they reached out to me. Most of the time, just for the record, it's usually like a it's not the company itself. It's usually like a PR team that reaches out to me on behalf of somebody else. So, like, I say, like, they reached out to me, and the company would be like, if they're watching this video, they'd be like, we did? When did we do that? Well, maybe you didn't, but, like, one of your PR people did. Haven't really been offered anything for, like, comics specifically. Various websites that are like, we can help you organize, like a list of all the things you own, and that could include comics. And I'm like, people can just like use Excel. You would listen to my beard tips. I don't mind the ads. Content creators got to get paid. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm starting to learn. Is I feel like I watch some pretty big channels that will still have like a sponsored ad, and I'm like, oh, if a channel with like millions of subscribers, or at least hundreds of thousands, are doing the ads, then I guess it's pretty standard, and maybe it's not that big a deal for me to just have an ad. I thought that they were annoying, so I was just trying to avoid them. But yeah, maybe I should have an ad. So we'll see. I'm just saying that's something that could happen. I'm open to it, but I'll always be careful that like it's a product that I can at least vet and be like, yeah, I'm not sending anybody towards anything that isn't a solid product. Would you do a Raid Shadow Legends comic? Well, I don't know if I'd do a whole episode about something sponsored like that. Hello from Tacoma. Oh, hello, fellow Pacific Northwester. Don't be too proud to take sponsors' money. Viewers don't care anymore. That's sort of what I'm learning. What do you think of Tradmore's art style in Silver Surfer Black? Pretty cool. Definitely Silver Surfer benefited from somebody with like a different art style. And in some ways, it definitely reminded me of Jack Kirby. Yeah. Do a survey. Maybe folks won't mind. I did a survey on Twitter once, and I did a survey on like a Patreon, I think. No, maybe I didn't. Maybe I just did Twitter. And most, like, pretty much the entire people were just like, yeah, do an ad. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'll do an ad. We'll see. Well, that could help. As long as it's helping the show, I would be fine with ads. Thanks. What about a live chat with some of your subs discussing comics? Maybe. Mostly I think I just want to try to find ways to incorporate content that's exclusive for my patrons. I think that that's the simplest way, is just to like, have like one place where I can like, not ask, but like have a place where people can like volunteer some money if they're comfortable with it. And then I could like give them whatever kind of exclusives I can come up with. All right, folks, I'm going to take off. I'm starving. It's getting late. It's getting late for all of us, I'm sure. Literally 2 hours until WandaVision. I like the overall pose here. I realized I didn't really necessarily know the costumes that well when I was doing it, so it's only sort of an okay execution. But it was still fun. And I'm going to be back soon. I'm already working on the next Comic Tropes episode. So I would not expect it this Sunday, but hopefully before next Sunday. That's my goal. So anyway, an ad for mail order spider monkeys. Exactly. You guys are great. This has been a blast tonight. We'll talk online if you ever want to reach me. Of course, patrons can reach me most easily, but I'm also on Twitter at CTropes, as in Comic Tropes. That's my main channel that I interact on is Twitter. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to take off. Until I see you next time, keep reading comics. Bye. End stream.